Hello, everyone. So today I want to talk about there's four executive orders that President Trump has signed directed towards the military, and I want to discuss that. But before I do, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel, and we want to continue to grow this community. So I'm new to all this, but my understanding is the more subscribers that view the videos and hit like, the greater the chances are for the algorithm to send it out to other people in the common feed, and then the community grows. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. It helps us collectively to get more people involved in these discussions that we're having, and we can move forward with that. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe. So President Trump has signed four executive orders directed at the Pentagon, and the first one is to reinstate everybody that was forced out of the military between 2021 and 2023, and this impacts about 8,000 service members, and because of the vaccine mandate. And so it was not only that these 8,000 people were forced out during the Biden administration, but also we were short in 2023 in recruiting by about 41,000 recruits. Now think about that. That's essentially 4 divisions worth of recruits that we're missing out of the military. And we can't afford that right now. So it's important that we get the right quality people in the military, and it's important we don't impose these obstacles upon them that are unnecessary. So the COVID vaccine mandate is gone. It's been canceled, and the president has made a good decision there. I support it 100%. The next executive order that he signed was the American Iron Dome. Now, the plan for this is that we're going to have this Iron Dome shield across the continental United States, and obviously Alaska and Hawaii also, and it's going to protect us from ballistic missiles. Now, we've done this before in Star Wars, if you remember, going back to the Reagan era, and so this is a very, very expensive proposition. By some math, it's going to cost us, if you take this complete area that needs to be covered, it's going to cost us into trillions of dollars. Now, think about it. Now, if President Trump wants to get Greenland and wants to take Canada as a 51st state, it's going to be a humongous bill to cover all that area by the Iron Dome. So, this one is out there. I think he signed it because he wants the Pentagon to study and the military-industrial complex to study the cost-benefit analysis and see if this is even feasible. I don't think it's feasible, just because the sheer scale of the United States, Canada, Greenland, and Alaska and Hawaii. So it's going to cost a lot of money. It's not like Israel, which is a very small country and it can cover itself. The United States is far bigger. The third executive order that he signed was to eliminate gender radicalism. And what he meant by that, the Biden era allowed transgenders to come into the military without really thinking through the issues. The issue really was the privacy of females in sleeping quarters, changing rooms, and bathrooms was being violated. So that's one issue. And the other issue was this issue with pronouns. I never could get my head around these pronouns. Us, them, they, her, him, it was a never-ending nightmare. And interestingly, I belong to LinkedIn. If you'd like to follow me there, that'd be great. But on LinkedIn, everybody had pronouns. I never did because I just didn't understand it. And now what you're seeing is everybody cleaning up their pronouns. So I just find it, really interesting that's going on. But the transgender issue is an important one. Look, I don't discriminate against anybody. I don't care if you're transgender, straight, gay, lesbian, what have you. That's your personal choice. I get that, right? But the issue is this: when you come in the military, the Uniformed Armed Services. So you don't get to pick and choose which part of the military you're gonna, cherry pick. You don't get to cherry pick the rules and regulations of the military. We all came in the military and we understood that we're gonna get a haircut, we're gonna have to shave every day, we're gonna have a uniform, and we're gonna be told what to do. I don't get to pick and choose. I'm only gonna be told what to do from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. After that, you can't tell me what to do. Well, that's nonsense. You can't build a lethal military like that. So when you come in the military, you got to give up some freedoms, just like I did, just like many of you have done. And some of those freedoms may be, if they're too important for you, you don't want to give them up, don't come. It's really that simple. And the problem with what we got going on now is you got these people coming in the military and they're saying, you know what, I want the military to adapt to me. Well, it doesn't work that way. The military is not going to adapt to you. You have to adapt to the military. And we really don't care what your religion is, what your gender is, what your sexual orientation is, and what your background is. We don't care. You're green, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts. Everybody's green. Everybody's neutral, right? And we don't look at this stuff. Now, the problem is when you bring the transgenders in, then you got issues. The female spaces are violated. That's one problem. And the other issue is a lot of them are going in to get the operations done. And that's costing the Department of Defense millions of dollars. Not only that, but then that person is out of commission. So somebody else has to deploy in place of that person. So we can't really afford any of that stuff. You know, it's just I read another article. The Air Force has evidently gone down to 3 shades of nail polish. They used to have 57 shades. Now imagine that. You had more choices than Baskin and Robbins. 57 shades of nail polish was allowed in the Air Force, and they came down to 3. You know, that makes me think, why do we even need 3? Why do we even need nail polish? You know, you're joining the military. You don't need nail polish. So, you know, we got to stop accommodating individual preferences and really think about the uniform. Everybody's got to look the same. Everybody's got to wear the same uniform, and everybody's got the same standards. That's what it's all about. When people join the military, we ought to have them sign a declaration that they will abide by the uniform regulations of the military. And if they don't want to do that, then we should not recruit them, quite simply. And the reason being is because what happens is you got the 1-2% of the military that want to be treated special. You know, they want special privileges because of who they are. And that's nonsense. Nobody gets special privileges. You know, so you got these people coming in the military now that, you know, that they want to wear a turban or a kippah. You know, why? You know, I respect everybody's religion, but the point being is you come in the military and we've got certain uniform regulations that you need to abide by. And that doesn't cover a turban now, does it? It doesn't cover a kippah. You know, because if we start doing that, we start being everything to everybody, pretty soon we're not going to be a military organization. You know, when I joined the military, I kind of set aside my religious obligations and my religious mores and values because I took an oath. And every religion allows that. You know, I never, you know, during Ramadan, I never said, hey, I'm not training this month because I'm fasting. You know, none of that stuff. I didn't require, although it's not a requirement, but I didn't ask for any exceptions to the uniform. None. A zero. Zip. Okay? Because I signed up for it. And every religion says that, you know, you have to fulfill your oath. So it's really that simple. So the problem is we got recruiters and the senior leadership that's willing to make these exceptions. And once you start doing that, once that dike starts leaking, the leak is going to get bigger, 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 and pretty soon the dike collapses and you got a flood. And that's exactly what's happening. So I'm glad that President Trump has come at the right time to stop this dike, to stop this flood. Because we have some serious challenges ahead of us. And we can't sit here and debate about, you know, 57 different colors of nail polish as opposed to 3 colors of nail polish. Or what your pronoun is. Am I a he, him, or a sheep? I don't know. You know, that's all nonsense. It's background noise. We have some challenges over the horizon. We got to get focused, and we got to build the best military that our money can buy. It's that simple. And the only way you do that is by having high standards that everybody has to meet. And if you don't meet it, go home. The military is a lot like the NFL. You know, they want the best, fastest, and the strongest. And if an NFL team doesn't get the best, fastest, and the strongest, they're not going to be a winning team. You know, you don't see any transgenders playing in an NFL team. You don't see any women playing on an NFL team. You see women on the sidelines supporting that team, and that's fine. That's good. You know, we're seeing some women refs. That's fine. But, you know, when I start seeing women linemen or inside linebackers, you know, by all means, you know, they could be in the infantry. But until then, just having this discussion is just plain stupid in my mind. And you know, I've been to all the war colleges, and I've sat there and I've listened to this shit, you know, in war colleges being debated ad nauseum. And you look around that room and not anybody's really carried a pack. And these people are discussing what's it like to be in the infantry when they've never done it. And you can't do this crap reading out of a book. And that's the problem I got with it. Everybody's just reading, you know, they're very well read, but they don't have the practical application behind them. Or when they were supposed to have the practical application, they went and sat on a fob. and then they got their combat action ribbon. That's just horseshit in my opinion. It's like, imagine somebody reading a muscle magazine, and that's all they do. You can sit there and read the muscle magazine until the cows come home. But until you go in the weight room and put the work in, you ain't going to get big. It's the same rules that apply in the military. You can read about all the tactics and all the history and all that stuff, but until you go out there and actually do it, you ain't going to get good at it. It's that simple. And the troops see this. I see too many officers sitting there going, oh, the coup d'etat, what would Napoleon would have done? Who gives a shit, man? Get out there and train your troops. So let's talk about the next one, since we're talking about standards. So the president's fourth executive order, he wants to eliminate DEI set-asides. And quite simply, what that means is everything is merit-based and standards-based. And the standards have to be gender-neutral. So everybody has to uphold that standards. And I would even go much further. Each MOS should have its gender-neutral standards. And if they have that, you have to meet the standards for the infantry, artillery, tanks, all the combat arms, and the support. Now, obviously, you don't want an admin clerk having the same standards that an infantryman would have. So we need to really think through this stuff, and it ought to be one standard. And the same thing, the president wants to make sure that everything is merit-based in terms of recruiting, in terms of promotion, and in terms of retention. We want to keep the best people. We don't want to have a quota of, we need X number of a certain gender or X number of certain minority or X number of certain that. We want the best of the best. And you got to compete for those positions. When I came in the Marine Corps, and after I got done with my training for the first year, we came in with the Reserve Officer Commission. And what that meant was that, after, like year 3, you had to compete to get a regular commission in the military. And what that meant was that based on your performance for those 3 years, you went in front of an augmentation board. In my augmentation board, 16% of the officers were retained. The rest of them were sent home, the other 84%. So it was that competitive. And over the years, we kind of put that aside, and basically you just had to fill out a form. I want a regular commission, and you got your regular commission. So the standards kept dropping, and as a result, this is what we got today. I just did my previous podcast about the brigadier generals. If you drop the standards, you're gonna have problems. As I said before in the previous podcast, the military doesn't need or never needed DEI. We sort of just opened the doors wide open, our senior military leadership, and let these politicians and these think tanks and these universities push that upon us, this liberal Marxist agenda. And the people that opposed it was the mid-level officers, the lieutenant colonels and stuff like Lohmeyer and Schiller, and a bunch of other ones that we don't even know about. And they got forced out of the military. So, the senior leadership really needs to think through about what their primary mission is. And just like Admiral Fagan forgot about her primary mission and ended up getting relieved. And the same thing applies to other senior leadership, especially the service chiefs. You're the end of the line, and you gotta hold the dike up, because there's a lot of pressures, and I understand that. There's all sorts of there's budgetary pressures, there's social pressures, there's political pressures, and there's pressures within the organization. But you got to hold that up, and it's an incredible amount of the weight you got to hold up. But that's why you're selected. That's why you're one of those 4 stars. And you got to push back on it. And it really bothers me, and I think it bothers a lot of people, that when DEI came about in 2021, none of you pushed back. You embraced it. And now you're making statements like, oh, we never had DEI. I'm going to save that for another podcast, and I'll prove to you that there's a lot of generals right now that are lying. And they know they're lying. So, general officers, senior leadership, please, we implore upon you, the retired community, and we give the voice to the voiceless, that you need to stand tall and have an iron spine against these social agendas. The military is not a social experiment. It never was and should never be. I applaud the president for taking these bold steps, because it's going to regenerate our military. And the way we regenerate our military is by keeping the good people in. And I think what's happened, over the last few years, now I get a lot of, messages and emails and all sorts of stuff from people in the military. And I think the good people were just frustrated with all these policies because they were being excluded out of that. The masses, the large majority, was being pushed aside for the small minority. And you can't run an organization like that. You know, there's a lot of good people in the military, and they come in the military to serve their country. They don't come in the military to be a social experiment. And we got to keep that in the back of our minds. These are good, honorable people that want to come join the military, but they don't want to end up in a cesspool, you know, with all this other stuff going on, DEI and you know, gender radicalism and all that stuff. That, you know, keep that out of the military, for God's sakes. We just want to serve. We want to train hard. We want to train to standards, and we want to defend our borders. And quite frankly, you know, we want to defend our Constitution. That's it. That's what a person in the military wants to do. He wants to do his time and go back home, you know, to Iowa, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, and someday talk to his grandchildren about when he served or she served in the military. It's that simple, and let's not complicate it any. So my hat's off to President Trump. I salute you. That's all I got. Stay rugged, stay united. Con out. And don't forget to subscribe, please, and hit the like button.